Warning, the following video might contain some moments that might not be too much for younger viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Does anyone remember the Talk and Play? It was an interactive reel-along audio tape player marketed to young children, first developed and manufactured by CBS Toys in 1984, then continued to be sold under Hasbro's Play School brand until 1992. Most of the reel-along tapes and picture books feature characters from the Disney and Sesame Street franchises. Children would follow these books and be told to press one of 4 different color buttons to answer the question. Solve a puzzle or just listen to a character's monologue. Reel-along storybooks and tapes were fairly common for children to have in the 1980s and 1990s, but the Talk and Play set itself apart from the rest. The tapes for the Talk and Play are unique in that there are 4 separate lines of sound on the track, making it possible to hear each line by pressing one of the 4 different color buttons on the machine. For its time, this was a highly innovative feature before CD-ROMs or even a Kindle was available for children's media. Of course, as you expected, I had the fortune of having a Talk and Play when I was a child. From 1999 and 1992, I joined having a Talk and Play to keep me occupied when I got bored with playing my toys or when I bored playing the NES. I had a few Sesame Street storybooks and tapes I enjoyed listening to. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street and Let's Play School? I enjoyed very much, and Alvin and the Chipmunks in the concert was my absolute favorite for the novelty songs featured on the tape. Good times, really. But I cannot forget my dreaded memory of do not push the red button. On my 7th birthday, after having the Talk and Play for a while since last Christmas, I received a book and tape of lovable furry old Glover please don't push the red button. It was perplexing to me. Why would Glover not want anyone to press the red button? I immediately put the tape in and played it along to find out. The story consisted of Grover and little vigilantes telling me to press either the green, yellow, or blue buttons, but not the red one. Being a nice and obedient kid I avoided pressing the red button all throughout, but I still didn't understand why Grover didn't want me to press it at all. I asked my parents, but they just humor me by shrugging and pretend not to know. This made my curiosity grow more morbid than ever. Later that night, it was time for bed. I went on the tape and replayed with the red button pressed to hear what Grover would say after every prompt to push a button. On the first half of the story, Grover just gently reminded the listener, me, that we're not pushing the red button today. Needless to say, I was disappointed, but still curious. However, on the page where I had to follow a maze out of the Count's castle, and the Count himself instructed, push a button, no. What I heard took me by terrible surprise. Grover responded, you pressed the red button again! And then he screamed. Grover screamed so loud, it made the speaker crackle and it pierced my eardrums. Apparently, Grover continued, now heavily exasperated, you have never seen a lovable fairy blue monster lose his temper. It is not a pretty sight. That was the first true hint I got as to why I shouldn't press the red button. I then remember how scared I used to be when my mother would read to me, there's a monster at the end of this book. Another picture book featuring Grover. All the dread I felt with each page my mother turned as we got closer to the end of that book was enough to fill my imagination with every nightmarish prediction possible. I get so scared. I yell at my mother to put the book away, but instead she stroked my head and repeated, it's okay, honey, it's not real. There's no such thing as monsters. She then gingerly revealed the last page, showing that the only monster at the end of the book was Grover himself, looking embarrassed and apologizing for making me feel scared. After recalling that memory and discovering the resolve I felt back then, I pressed onward to hear the rest of the Talk and Play tape. The next page involved Cookie Monster making cookies in the kitchen, cookie dough everywhere and all. Grover was standing over the empty space where the red button should be, spitting something over it with a wooden spoon. That something, which was supposed to be just more cookie dough, was something wrong. My eyes widened and my mouth felt dry when I realized what Grover was pouring over the empty space over the red button. A crimson mass containing an eyeball, a speared finger, and a pair of teeth still attached to bloody gum tissue. I was petrified. Why would Grover show me something so horrible like that as to discourage me from pressing the red button? I then heard Grover speak from the tape upon the prompt to press a button. His voice sounded much deeper and more menacing that it didn't even sound like Frank Oz anymore. He said, you're beginning to anger me, child. Turn the next few pages. If you want to know why you shouldn't, press the red button. And I did as Grover ordered. The next page contained a more ghoulish scene. Simon Salman, who played as a farmer on the next page, was missing. In the background, all over the tilted soil of the farmland were animal skeletons. They weren't tame-looking Muppet skeletons. There were realistic animal skeletons of cows, horses, chickens, and pigs. Bare gray bones with shreds of pink suet, indicating that they've just been stripped of their flesh. I stared at this page for a good couple of minutes, filled with dread and confusion. Simon Salman was nowhere to be found. Even I clearly heard him narrate the scene as normal, but the song, which used to be a hunting we will go, was now replaced with a low rumbling noise echoing out as if in a wrought iron chamber. After a few seconds of listening to that haunted ambience, I jumped at the sound of another scream, followed by the sound of slicing, cracking, and dripping. The horrid image in my mind couldn't not compare to what I saw in the book. After the dripping sound stopped, Grover spoke once again in that deep voice. Turn the page. The next page showed Grover standing in an apartment living room, holding the paint can. I knew from the first run that it was indeed red paint in that can, but after seeing him spill nasty gore from a wooden spoon and a bunch of rancid farm animal skeletons, I dreaded that it was something much worse this time around. Grover then said, this time in his normal voice, what I am holding here is a can of, then cuts to the deep voice booming, offerings for Cal Lee. And then his normal voice saying, I bet you are wondering what I'm about to do with that. I didn't even want to know anymore. I took the tape off, then I shut the tape off then and there and allowed the fear to wash over me. As I quietly crawled into bed, I never slept that whole night, shaking and chattering even while under two heavy blankets. The next morning, my mother came to see me in my bed and felt how dead cold I felt. She then took me to the emergency clinic to have a doctor examine me. I don't remember what the diagnosis was, but I later found out years later it was trauma-induced insomnia, which didn't affect me throughout my childhood and teenage years. I cannot tell you the number of years it took me to get over the horror instilled by Grover, that horrible monster at the end of that talk and play book. All I can remember from the first clean read-along was that the last page showed Grover smearing the red entire page with red paint and getting some paint on himself, while Prairie Dawn stood behind Grover and shrugged her shoulders. If you had imagined it as vivid as I do, then it's not hard to imagine what that last page would have looked like. So that was Do Not Push the Red Button, a creepypasta based on Sesame Street, and wow, this is a pretty crazy one. Like, seriously, Grover being an absolute maniac, over killing those poor innocent farm animals, and pretty much trying to do something with the red paint, and something he cook like cookies out of a victim, by the eyes, I think, like the teeth, and I think fingers. Like, goddamn, Grover needs some serious help after this damn story. Like, wow, man, just wow. But it has some cliches, but this is actually a pretty crazy read, especially the part where when Grover just started to sound a little bit more deep and scary outside of his the bunny iconic Frank Oz voice. Like, damn, this is kind of a really scary creepypasta story, and honestly kind of a fun one too. So yeah, don't know what else to say, but it's a pretty crazy good story. So yeah. So anywho, guys, I hope you enjoyed this creepypasta reading video. So like and comment this video and subscribe for more content. So this is Mr. Right here, and I hope you have a very good day or night as I've recorded this. So bye.